The story starts with Ji-woo, a determined career woman who has made a name for herself at her workplace, thanks to her unwavering attitude. One ordinary day, as she was walking through the office lobby, her eyes met with a man who captivated her instantly. This wasn't just any man. He turned out to be Ji-hoo, the newly appointed manager for her team. Before this role, Ji-hoo had been in charge of a different team in the same office. From the very beginning, Ji-hoo was struck by Ji-woo's forthrightness, particularly when she didn't hesitate to challenge the ways of their team leader Hwang. Hwang had a reputation for frivolously using the team's funds for personal leisure, like dining out. On the other hand, Ji-woo was equally impressed with Ji-hoo, especially when he boldly corrected Hwang's missteps, showcasing leadership and integrity. During a lunch break, Ji-woo made an observation. Ji-hoo seemed to be the center of attention for many women in the office, his popularity evident from their admiring glances. One day, Ji-hoo faced a little dilemma. He was anxiously looking for a package he had ordered. The mix-up happened because Ji-hoo had used his team's name instead of his own when placing the order. The security personnel, unaware of Ji-hoo's recent move to the PR team, mistakenly handed over the package to Ji-woo. Upon opening it, Ji-woo discovered a unique thorny necklace that seemed reminiscent of a dog's leash. Ji-hoo, seeing her with it, hurriedly retrieved the necklace, explaining it was meant for his pet dog, Mio. As Ji-woo was considering disposing of the now empty box, Ji-hoo's sudden interest in retrieving it suggested there was more to the story than what met the eye. However, Ji-hoo's attempt to keep the box away from Ji-woo fails when it tumbles to the ground. As it opens, an adult game tool coupon is exposed, leaving Ji-woo in no doubt about the real purpose of the necklace. It wasn't for a dog, it was associated with BDSM. At the cafeteria, Ji-hoo's behavior changes when he spots Ji-woo. He acts out of character, appearing both anxious and misbehaved. Whenever someone mentions the word perverted, he reacts as if it's a direct reference to him. A week goes by and Ji-hoo is taken aback, realizing no odd stories about him have circulated. To his relief, Ji-woo has chosen to keep the incident under wraps. Needing to share his feelings with someone, Ji-hoo turns to a close friend online who has a particular interest in more intense sensual experiences. That evening after her jog, Ji-woo found herself in front of an adult toy store. A fleeting but unsettling hallucination took hold of her, in which she envisioned Ji-hoo fastening that dog-like necklace around her neck. The subsequent day brought a more peculiar incident. In the office's supply warehouse, Ji-hoo was occupied crafting a text message for Ji-woo. It was meant to convey his gratitude for her discretion about his private package and an apology for any discomfort caused. Before he could send the message, the door creaked open and Ji-woo stepped in. Panicked, Ji-hoo quickly slipped on the animated clown mask, a fixture of office pranks named Dong Dong. Ji-woo recoiled in surprise at first, but she soon recognized the telltale signs, hinting that Ji-hoo was the man behind the mask. Their surprised reactions caused a mishap, with Ji-woo inadvertently causing Ji-hoo to tumble backward, leaving him momentarily disoriented. Moved by a rush of guilt, Ji-woo hurriedly assisted Ji-hoo, ensuring he received prompt medical attention. After his examination, and with the incident behind them, Ji-hoo located Ji-woo waiting in the hospital's tranquil garden. Approaching her, Ji-hoo expressed his heartfelt gratitude for her assistance and patience. His sincere apology for the warehouse mishap mirrored her own regrets, as Ji-woo too felt she owed him an apology for her startled reaction and the subsequent accident. In the midst of their candid conversation, Ji-woo hesitated momentarily before revealing her own unique tendencies. Misunderstanding her pause, Ji-hoo prematurely concluded that Ji-woo shared a similar inclination towards BDSM as he did. Overwhelmed and caught off guard, Ji-hoo unguardedly confessed his penchant for BDSM. However, Ji-woo quickly corrected his presumption, clarifying that her particular tendency was an habitual demeanor that often made her appear intimidating to others. This revelation sparked Ji-woo's curiosity about Ji-hoo's interests. Intrigued by the unfamiliar realm of BDSM and motivated to understand Ji-hoo better, she began researching the subject. Concurrently, Ji-woo's close friend Haemi noticed the subtle changes in Ji-woo's behavior and suspected she had developed feelings for someone. Drawing from her own experiences, Haemi advised Ji-woo to feign ignorance about Ji-hoo's secret, believing that maintaining a semblance of normalcy would allow their relationship to develop without the weight of judgment. The following day, the office atmosphere buzzed with excitement over the impending animation festival. Ji-hoo, acutely aware of the awkwardness between him and Ji-woo, sought to bridge the gap by offering assistance with her work for the festival. To his dismay, Ji-woo declined his offer, further amplifying his apprehensions. Mistaking her refusal as a sign of aversion, Ji-hoo grew despondent, fearing that Ji-woo was repulsed by his personal inclinations. At the team's celebratory dinner, the atmosphere was vibrant, filled with the triumphant feelings of their recently held animation festival. Ji-woo, detained by other obligations, arrived slightly tardy. As she approached the table, the only vacant seat available was directly opposite Ji-hoo. Wang had just vacated that spot, leaving behind a haphazard array of scattered utensils, crumpled napkins, and leftover food. Ji-woo's face contorted in subtle disgust at the sight, but Ji-hoo, already clouded by his insecurities, misinterpreted her reaction as a sign of repulsion towards him. Later that evening, as Ji-woo stood curbside waiting for her taxi, her attention was diverted by the unmistakable sound of someone sobbing nearby. To her surprise, the source of the distressed cries was none other than Ji-hoo, his face flushed from alcohol and eyes red from tears. Concerned, Ji-woo approached him, trying to ascertain the cause of his distress. Through his inebriated sobs, Ji-hoo revealed the root of his insecurities. His previous relationship with Hana had ended due to his unique sexual proclivities. The weight of that rejection, coupled with Ji-woo's perceived aversion, had taken an emotional toll on him. Ji-woo, realizing the depth of Ji-hoo's pain, sought to comfort him. She assured him that she bore no judgment or disgust towards his preferences. Ji-woo emphasized that everyone had their own quirks and unique tendencies. Her words, genuine and kind, penetrated Ji-hoo's inebriated haze. Overwhelmed by her understanding and acceptance, Ji-hoo, in a moment of vulnerability and perhaps influenced by the alcohol, made a bold proposal to Ji-woo to engage in BDSM dynamics with him, seeking her to assume the dominant role. However, Ji-woo's hesitation was evident. The world of BDSM was unknown to her, filled with nuances and complexities that she hadn't navigated before. Her own inexperience, coupled with the whirlwind of emotions she felt watching Ji-hoo being fawned over, only served to amplify her inner turmoil. Despite the maelstrom of feelings, her desire to understand Ji-hoo and the world he inhabited remained. The office lounge was dimly lit, casting shadows that danced across the walls. The weight of the moment seemed to hang in the air as Ji-woo instructed Ji-hoo to wear a blindfold, diving into the role of a dominant for the first time. His immediate compliance, that shimmer of vulnerability combined with trust, only made Ji-woo's heart race faster. Ji-hoo's admission of why he desired Ji-woo as his dominant was simple yet profound. It was about acceptance, understanding, and the freedom to be his authentic self. Ji-woo's heart ached hearing this, sensing the depths of his vulnerability and his yearning for a connection that transcended societal norms. However, Ji-woo is still unsure about what Ji-hoo has told her. However, after seeing how sincere Ji-hoo is, especially when he waits for her in the rain, she decides to give his request a chance. Once home, Ji-woo starts to learn all about BDSM. Meanwhile, Ji-hoo is happy because he's found someone who understands his desires. The next day at work, Ji-woo asks Ji-hoo to meet her on the roof. There, she hands him glasses, hinting that she wants to take charge. They agree on a 3-month deal where Ji-hoo will follow Ji-woo's lead. They plan to have their intense sessions weekly, and if things get too intense, they'll use the safe word dong dong, which is the name of a cartoon character at their workplace. They'd also decide that any intimate moments should be agreed upon by both of them. Despite Ji-hoo's assurances to Ji-woo that he would never act against her, he'd expressed a keen interest in exploring the heightened sensations their rough play offered. On a particular evening, they decided to delve into their shared interest at a hotel. As part of their game, Ji-woo tied up Ji-hoo, instructing him to bark if he wished to communicate something. All seemed to be going as planned, with Ji-hoo appearing to be quite engrossed. However, a sound from the adjacent room startled him, causing him to bark uncontrollably. Ji-woo made attempts to soothe him using the reins, but his agitation only intensified. This led to a swift and unexpected departure from the hotel. After the chaotic events at the hotel, Ji-hoo drove Ji-woo home. He was overwhelmed with guilt about how things had turned out, while Ji-woo found the whole situation somewhat entertaining. At work the following day, Ji-woo couldn't help but admire Ji-hoo. His assertiveness, especially when he stood up to team leader Wang, made him look particularly impressive to her. With a newfound appreciation for Ji-hoo, Ji-woo decided to treat him with extra kindness. Later, Ji-hoo invited Ji-woo to a private restaurant for a meal. To Ji-woo's surprise, Ji-hoo presented her with a pair of high heels. It wasn't even her birthday yet, but Ji-hoo explained he wanted to be the first to gift her something special. This thoughtful gesture deeply moved Ji-woo. In the spirit of their unique bond, she playfully suggested using the heels for their next game right there. Despite the intensity of the act, both found enjoyment in their shared experience. The following day, Haemi stumbled upon Ji-woo gazing at a picture of her and Ji-hoo together. Seizing the moment, Haemi encouraged Ji-woo to be bold and asked Ji-hoo out, suggesting that she share her feelings with him. As days passed, Ji-woo's admiration for Ji-hoo deepened, particularly when she observed him engrossed in his work. During a routine meeting, the team was informed that the intern, Han-sol, was now a full-time employee. Wang tasked Ji-woo with mentoring Han-sol. Ji-hoo's emotions started to bubble as he noticed Ji-woo and Han-sol growing closer. Their nightly games remained a consistent escape for them. But Ji-hoo's jealousy peaked when Han-sol remarked to Ji-hoo about how alluring Ji-woo appeared when she was upset. Given the dynamics, Ji-hoo couldn't express his displeasure directly at Han-sol. Instead, he asked Ji-woo to meet him after work in their usual study spot. Upon meeting, Ji-hoo quietly informed Ji-woo about an error she made in an office email. Contrary to his stern demeanor with Han-sol, Ji-hoo was gentle with Ji-woo since he was her senior at work. Ji-woo quickly caught onto Ji-hoo's underlying jealousy, as a form of playful reprimand for allowing personal emotions to spill over into their professional lives. Ji-woo asked Ji-hoo to loosen his belt, hinting at a possible punishment. But instead of striking Ji-hoo, he hit the table on Ji-hoo's side. Observing Ji-woo's more assertive demeanor, Ji-hoo felt a mix of guilt and longing. He pleaded with Ji-woo, asking her to reprimand him, even to the extent of using strong words against him. Unable to resist Ji-hoo's requests, Ji-woo finally let out her pent-up frustrations, not just at Ji-hoo but also reflecting her feelings towards Wang. However, in Ji-hoo's perspective, Ji-woo's passionate outburst only made her more captivating. Their intense moment was almost exposed by a security personnel, forcing them to quickly seek cover. The shared emotions of that night lingered. Back at home, Ji-woo's cheeks were warm with embarrassment as she recalled the near intimacy at the office, especially the almost kiss between them. With each passing day, Ji-hoo began sharing more of his daily activities with Ji-woo, aiming to solidify their bond in the workplace. The two also developed a habit of sneaking glances at each other, ensuring their budding relationship remained unnoticed by coworkers. After their intense play session, Ji-woo gently attended to the marks on Ji-hoo's back, caused by her whip. In the midst of this tender moment, Ji-hoo's phone rang with a call from Hana, his ex-girlfriend. However, he chose not to answer. Opening up to Ji-woo, Ji-hoo shared how Hana deeply resented him, feeling misled by Ji-hoo's unique desires. Despite the physical pain from their games, Ji-hoo confessed to Ji-woo that it made him feel more alive than ever. The following day, Hana reached out to Ji-hoo again, hoping to meet in person. Prioritizing his newfound connection with Ji-woo, he declined Hana's request. Instead, he and Ji-woo went for a drive, escaping the city's hustle and bustle. Upon reaching their destination, Ji-woo, in the spirit of their playful dynamic, handcuffed their hands together. She then mischievously left the keys in the car, ensuring that their bond remained unbroken for the duration of their outing. Upon reaching the restaurant for their playfully handcuffed date, Ji-woo and Ji-hoo were caught off guard when Haemi spotted them from a distance. As the atmosphere grew tense, Ji-hoo's reluctance to show public affection became evident. Though their wrists were bound together, he hesitated to even let their fingers intertwine. The palpable tension reached its peak when Ji-woo, in a brave act, voiced her feelings for Ji-hoo and proposed they officially become a couple. But Ji-hoo's traumatic past with Hana cast a dark shadow, preventing him from accepting Ji-woo's proposition. As the evening progressed, an urgent phone call from Haemi interrupted their already complicated date. Ji-woo's face turned pale upon hearing Haemi's panicked voice on the other end, describing her disturbing encounter with a man from a blind date. Haemi, much like Ji-hoo, harbored a similar yearning for intense and unconventional experiences. However, this man's actions were unsolicited and aggressive, a stark difference from the consensual play between Ji-woo and Ji-hoo. Recognizing the urgency, Ji-woo quickly grasped the details as Haemi shouted her location before the call abruptly ended. Bound by the handcuffs but also by their shared concern for Haemi, Ji-woo and Ji-hoo rushed to the hotel, determined to help their friend. Each step towards the hotel room echoed with anxiety, worry, and the underlying tension from Ji-woo's earlier confession. Upon reaching the designated location, they discovered Hae-mi had taken control of the situation by tying the man to the bed. This event left Ji-woo reflective as she returned home, especially since she had recently opened up about her feelings. Additionally, she became acutely aware that their pre-decided agreement was nearing its conclusion. Simultaneously, Ji-hoo found himself immersed in memories at his home, particularly recalling the time he had divulged a personal secret to Hana. That memory wasn't a pleasant one. Hana had not taken it well, and Ji-hoo now harbored fears that his current relationship with Ji-woo might meet a similarly bitter end. Subsequent to that episode, there was a tangible tension between Ji-woo and Ji-hoo during their interactions at the workplace. On one occasion, Ji-woo observed Ji-hoo being particularly cautious about his glasses, not letting anyone touch or remove them. This behavior reminded her of a specific rule she had set about those glasses. As the day wore on, Ji-woo communicated to Ji-hoo about their impending final meet-up. She began preparations on her end, while Ji-hoo decided to cook a special dinner in anticipation of their evening together. However, the evening took an unexpected turn. When Ji-hoo's doorbell rang, he was greeted by the presence of Hana, not Ji-woo as he had expected. Hana, seeking companionship after a recent breakup, hoped to spend some time with Ji-hoo, but he declined her invitation, hinting at Ji-woo's forthcoming visit. This refusal did not sit well with Hana. She responded by expressing her anger, causing disarray in Ji-hoo's apartment. As she hastily exited the building, she briefly encountered Ji-woo, but chose to continue on her way without any acknowledgement. When Ji-woo reached Ji-hoo's apartment, he quickly filled her in about the unexpected visit from Hana. Putting that aside, they proceeded with their final game. Throughout the game, Ji-hoo was emotionally unsettled, knowing this would be their last session together. In a surge of emotion, Ji-hoo impulsively kissed Ji-woo. Startled, Ji-woo urged Ji-hoo to maintain distance and restrain his growing feelings for her. The evening ended with Ji-woo choosing to release Ji-hoo and bidding him farewell. As she was about to leave, Ji-hoo confessed that he believed he wasn't the right person for her. Later that night, Ji-woo was overwhelmed with emotion and broke down in tears. The events of the previous night took a toll on her, causing her to skip work the following day. However, during her evening jog to clear her mind, Ji-woo's phone was flooded with unsettling emails. To her shock, Han Sol had discreetly placed a voice recorder in their office. The device had unintentionally captured and broadcasted a recording of Ji-woo from one of their earlier sessions, causing more complications for her. The following day, team leader Hwang reprimanded Ji-woo, and the whole office soon buzzed with whispers and gossip about her. As if that wasn't enough, some colleagues took to openly taunting her. Ji-hoo, initially oblivious to the commotion, was also summoned by Hwang after Ji-woo left the room. Feeling responsible, Ji-hoo decided to apologize to Ji-woo in person. He went to her home, but she refused to see him. This left Ji-hoo feeling even more regretful. The situation escalated when both Ji-woo and Ji-hoo were called into the company's boardroom for a disciplinary meeting. At the start, Ji-hoo quietly bore the brunt of the criticism. But as the higher-ups shifted from reprimanding to outright verbally attacking Ji-woo, Ji-hoo couldn't hold back anymore. He intervened, taking the blame and confessing his feelings for Ji-woo in front of everyone. Ji-woo was deeply touched by his gesture. Ignoring the stunned board members and disregarding any fallout, the duo confidently walked out of the boardroom together. Despite everything, Ji-woo and Ji-hoo were really happy together. Ji-woo even thought about having another go at their unique contract. This time, it wasn't just about their playful games. They wanted to mix it with their dating life. Ji-hoo was sure they were going to get the sack, but a twist saved them. The entire division had heard recordings of the board's private chats. On the same day Ji-woo's own recording got out, she bumped into Han Sol, who was off work. She convinced him to share every recording he had, even those of the board. This move left the board red-faced, so they only cut Ji-woo and Ji-hoo's pay and gave them a short break. From then on, things were smooth for Ji-woo and Ji-hoo. They continued with their playful games, enjoying every bit of it. And so the movie wrapped up. The moral of the story is unique relationships can thrive. Just make sure to keep company boards out of it.